Hello, Susan Specht Oram here, author of mysteries and thrillers and creative nonfiction. I wanted to talk today, tell a little story about my 97-year-old mother, and she's passed away now recently. Pardon me. But when people get older, some of us lose our mentation, our memory, and she insisted on living in her own home. And I know scads of people right now, my age in their late 60s, early 70s, where their mothers or parents are still alive and they're insisting on living in their own home, but they're not able to take care of the property or their own financial affairs. So I'm 3 states away from my mother. She loved the California sun and her friends, great. But things would break in her home, and she resisted getting a new window when water was pouring through when I was there 2 years ago in March to do her income taxes, which she used to do but wasn't able to. And she didn't want the window replaced, and she didn't want me to call to get bids and while I was there. And so the frustrations, the stubbornness of someone who's older who wants to control their life, but they're not able to. I know we all can feel for someone like that. We all want to have control of our lives. But if you've got memory loss and you aren't able to process about project management or fixing your broken, leaking window where water was just pouring in during a rainstorm, it was very hard for her to let go and let me get that window replaced while I was there and make arrangements for it. But the thing I wanted to talk about now was I was there in June and July when she was diagnosed with cancer. And then she received, well, I guess I'll start with, she received an IRS first notice about final payment needed for 2 years before. And she told me and the CPA that she had paid the IRS for 2024, but she hadn't, and she never mailed that check. And so in August when I was there, she hid the first notice from the IRS, payment due, and sorry you can hear my phone dinging, I apologize, in the background. Then my brother was there in October. She received a second final notice from the IRS, payment due, or we'll put a lien on your property and we will, do something with your bank account. So we'll just take the money from the bank account linked to the IRS payments. And then finally in December, around, mid-December, she received a third notice. And so she called me on a Friday afternoon at about 4 o'clock and said, "Oh, I got this notice from the IRS." And I said, "Take a photo of it, please," because I thought it was a scam. So many elderly are scammed, and all of us are, right? Targeted by email scams and paper. So she sent a photo, and I thought it was a scam, but no. I sent it to the CPA he's in California in Marin County, and he'd already left for the day at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. And so I left a voicemail for him on Saturday and another one Sunday. And then I called him Monday, at about 11:30 on Monday. And I said, "Hi there, did you check your emails or your voicemails yet?" "Oh, no," at 11:32 Monday. "I guess I should." And so he did, and he said, "Oh my goodness, this payment is due within the next 4 hours, and the clock is ticking, and they will take the money and a penalty and a fine, and they'll put a lien on her house if we don't take action within under 4 hours." The clock was ticking during our conversation, obviously. So fortunately, I'd moved money over, and there was enough in her checking account related to the IRS payment. And so he paid it, but it was such a close call. And so but she wanted to be in charge of her financial affairs, even though she couldn't. And so for all of you dealing with an older relative or parent who wants to be independent but isn't able to, I feel for you, and I just wanted to tell that little story. My goodness, right? What we all go through. All right, take care. Bye. Hi, Susan here with a little footnote. I forgot to add two things to the short story of 5 minutes that you heard just now about my 97-year-old mother and the IRS penalty, um, 3 notices. Final reminder. First is she hid the first notice under the paper napkins behind the dining table in a cupboard. Anyway, it was hidden. The second notice was hidden under a stack of papers in the study, with greeting cards from people from 2 years before, and so it was just a puzzle why somebody would hide these notices, final notices from the IRS. And I kind of thought it was amazing that the first notice was hidden under the stack of paper napkins one could use. And then the second thing I wanted to add as a footnote is I've read also that with a traumatic event like that one Friday afternoon through Monday noon resolution of mom's IRS overdue payment, my cortisol level in my blood levels skyrocketed. And it was a traumatic event for me. And my hair, it's really interesting, but if you look it up, for some people after a traumatic event, 3 months later, your hair sloughs off, and I was losing scads of hair, clumps of hair when I washed my hair in the shower. It was just tremendous how much was coming out. And I looked it up, and for some of us, our cortisol levels in our blood spike with a traumatic event like that. I had to do something. I didn't know about the IRS fines, and I had a ticking clock I had to respond to. And so that trauma resulted, I believe, just anecdotal, Susan the doctor comment here, it resulted in my hair sloughing off 3 months later. Okay, take care. Bye.